Hey everybody, welcome to Growing with Fishes podcast, episode 99. This week we have Brendon and Aura from Spectrum King.
Hey
everybody, welcome to
Awesome lights.
Fishes podcast, episode 99. I got some loop, hold on.
Yes, I noticed.
Aura from Spectrum King.
I always love hearing the sound of the audio.
Sorry about that. I have had major audio issues, as you guys know, for a little while.
It's only been a month. It's all right.
Yeah, it's been a while. Finally troubleshooted a lot of it today, which is why my end sounds a lot better. So we also have Marty.
Hey guys, what's going on?
We got Mr. Green Jeans.
What's up, everybody?
And we got Roger.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Happy growing.
Sure.
So Brendon and Aura, what's new with you guys since the last time you guys have been on? It's been quite a while. I know you guys have been up to quite a few different things now.
That would be a whole lot of stuff. I'll try to keep it simple. We
Oh, you don't have to.
the new Loco series of fixtures, which we have Loco Veg, which is out, and we have Loco Flower, which is coming out. That's for vertical farming guys or lower ceiling guys that need lights that can blast without burning your plants. We have completely even coverage at 6 to 12 inches away. Grow 3-4 foot tall plants with these things, no problem. And we have control systems, we have high voltage systems, we have 480 volt 3-phase input. You can run our SK602s in greenhouses with no power supplies on them. You can run at 480 watts. We have each shelf does 24,000 watts. You can run 40 lights with each shelf unit with sunrise, sunset. You can put sensors in there. It's a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of capabilities built in. Right now the software is still young, but right now it does sunrise, sunset, just do your basic timers. Eventually we'll be adding in daylight harvesters where if you're in a greenhouse and you set a certain par limit for your canopy, let's say you set 1,000 par. The sun comes out and you reach 1,000 par, so your lights will automatically dim down, so that way you're saving energy. We're incorporating these smart controls to more, bringing the ROI for the LED into the overall system. We're also coming out with propagator lights, even lights for greenhouses, specifically greenhouse bars. We're doing a lot.
We're going to have some Zigbee modules, and we're going to have new software for that too. So, we've been busy elves in the workshop for sure.
That's why we've been quiet.
So I know you guys have had a new greenhouse fixture, I think, since the last time you guys were on. You guys want to talk about that? Because I know there's a lot of people that are excited or moving towards greenhouses that would help out a lot.
Well, we've got the SK602GH, which is an all-white SK602. You can get it from any voltage from 120, and then it even works up with our 480 volt 3-phase systems. We're moving an F ton of those. I think that's the technical term. And then we're working on a new one. We have some new, what we call the greenhouse blades that I'm guessing those are probably a quarter or 6 months out to get them right. But we never stop tinkering. Every problem someone offers or says, we'd like to get this solved, but we don't have an answer for it. We want to come up with a solution for it. And because, we can't help it. We're nerds at heart. We want to make people grow better. We'll try to solve any problem that we can get our hands on that makes sense to us that we can find a solution to. So as long as it's cost effective and gets the job done, it works. We're happy, so we keep doing it.
The reason why we chose white for the greenhouse unit was specifically because white is more reflective, less absorption, doesn't absorb less heat than black. Other reasons.
Solar radiation makes a big difference. So if you have a highly reflective white surface, you can mitigate that and extend the life of the fixture a lot more.
If you have 480 volt power in 3-phase, which most of these greenhouses, commercial greenhouses do, you're talking about removing a 7 to 8 pound power supply off each fixture. So imagine what that's going to do to your trusses.
Right. You have a 10,000 square foot greenhouse, and you're supplementing coverage 10 by 10 area. I mean, just do the math. There's 1,000 lights. That's 8,000 pounds you just took off your support system that it doesn't need to hold anymore.
Not only that, all that excess heat is now, you can do 24,000 watts with, you can do you can do 74,000 watts with only 1 ton of AC.
Basically, when you think of the surface area in the metal that the power supply heat it creates, the rest of the fixture absorbs that and dissipates it. When the power supply is no longer on the unit and only the light engine's own heat generates comes up, it never gets past lukewarm or warm. It never gets hot. The fixture at all, when you're in a greenhouse, that sheer volume of space you have, you literally probably don't ever have to use it other than your conventional north-facing swamp coolers and so forth in your greenhouses. There's less residual heat, exponentially reduced. And think of it this way. If you plug in any fixture at 240 volt in a grow site, you're talking about a double-ended bulb that's running at 1150 watts. You're talking about at 240, 5-6 amps per fixture. You run our SK602GH on our 40 volt three-phase system, you're pulling 0.71 amps per light. So even with safety, it's just 1 amp per light.
That's crazy.
Your load balancing is it's huge. Your infrastructure wires, you could run each group of 5 lights to standard 12 gauge wire to 1 JB and then chain off to those lights. So you're think of all the outlets when guys run 277, for example, in greenhouses in the past. You can put a light conduit, heavy gauge wire to every single outlet for every single fixture. With this, you put 1 JB and you want a stinger to 5 lights. Next row, 5 lights. So your infrastructure outlay is drastically reduced, as well as your power loads. It's a big thing.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a lot of reduction.
One last point on this is that most LED power supplies are 89% efficient. Our power supply for the SK602 is 92% efficient, which is pretty right.
Another increase. It's exponential more.
It's an increase above everyone else, but as far as the IHP, the high powered system, that's 98% efficient. So what it would take our SK602 to do at 640 watts, this can do at 600 watts.
Getting the same amount of light and saving that much more power. So, and the more efficient you get, the less heat you create, the more light you get. So it's a pretty cool balance. And those who take these for test drives, we launched them actually last year very quietly. We had some test areas we went into and checked every possible negative scenario, what could happen, this, that, the other thing. And once we got them dialed in, guys got quiet. We thought, well, what's going on? And it's the things just work, which is the beauty of it,
Yeah, so you have these new lights you're talking about for vertical. Those are thinner, smaller lights, or like more like rack lighting kind of thing?
Yeah, correct. You're talking about a fixture from top to bottom is like 2.5 inches thick, and think of it as having blades on a tight H frame so that they can be mounted, or if you're mounting directly, you can just mount the blades themselves. When you do a remote power system, we can have a harness that shoots down a whole line of blades and powers them all to one junction box. So, and if you're doing a vertical form racking scenario, if you're just growing in a 4x4 area at home, you just stick it in there and it covers a 4x4 and you're done.
When you guys are talking about vertical, just to be clear, you're not talking about the light being vertical. You're talking about stacking it vertically. So just to clarify, I already knew what you guys were talking about, but I think it's a little confusing for people listening because a lot of times in aquaponics, especially, we talk about vertical, plants and stuff like that, and that's not really what we're talking about here. So we're talking about in commercial applications, we want to be able to put multiple stacks of plants in one warehouse and have a small amount of head space.
Cannabis farmers, you have 2-3 levels up, they'll have like 3 5-foot shelves in a warehouse. Or if you have your leafy green people that have, anywhere from 6 to 15 layers. So it just comes down to what each shelf height is going to be, what intensity you need, and so forth. So we dial it in as to the crop you're working with and the space you have.
You guys have worked with a lot of different. You want to talk about some of the different crops that you guys have worked with and done a lot of light work, light data and work with?
Oh, well, the beauty of it is the more people we reach out to, the more things we're exposed to, the more stuff we learn. So, for example, certain types of kale want a slightly different bit of light than certain lettuce. And a lot of guys try to do a one size fits all light, and they always want to make a light that works for across the board. Well, plants will grow with any photon energy they can get, but if you give them, if you will, the buffet the way they like it, the light blended the way they want it, you get better results from your plants. So the more crops we learn more about, obviously we started very heavily in cannabis, as you guys know, and got extremely serious on getting that right. And we're still obsessing over it. And when I recently came up with in our new low pros, I'm really stoked because special sauce got special herb. So for cannabis, I'm really happy. Leafy greens, I'm happy getting better at it because we have more people coming forth with it. And there's a lot of urban farming going on. It's really changing.
That's awesome to hear you're working with a lot of different urban farming groups. So what price range are those thinner rack lights that you're talking about now?
Well,
Those new ones, are the blades, or I think you called them.
the local veg, if you're talking about a home plug-in unit, is the same price as the SK402, so that's $849. If you were looking at our low pro flowering unit, which blasted 4x4 completely evenly with more intense than the other no
Yeah, I mean,
fixture.
dude, at a foot, you're getting like 1,000. No, it was like 900.
Yeah. So
Ridiculous.
unless you're going, if you're going sensitive OGs, you put the thing 18 inches up. Otherwise, you're going to keep it a foot over your plants and just ride it up. And those are the same price as the SK602s. Low pro flower is $1,495, like the SK602s.
Cool. Awesome. No, that's really cool to finally have some really low profile lights for those kind of situations.
Yeah, and another thing, the powder coated antimicrobial. So for anything, food grade.
Very easy to clean and maintain. You can spray with a hose like any of the other stuff, and no creepy crawlies or bacteria will form on them. Because what we saw with some other people's fixtures that were not IP rated or safe is that after a while, I mean, they got kind of funky. I'll leave it at that. There was less than pleasant mold and mildew things kind of growing on outside of the fixtures because there was a surface available for them to habitate. And some moisture settled up there, and boom, there they were. If you work with as we mentioned, an antimicrobial surface, they just don't go there.
Well, you guys also have a good design too that helps if you're using beneficial insects, that helps them kind of fall through it and not stay in the fixture. I know that Fish Ganja Guy did a comparison with your light against another company, and it ended up collecting so much that it ended up, being a borderline fire hazard. And people forget about that, especially when they dump lots of ladybugs, if they're using halides and other things like that. It can really build up and and be actually a fire hazard. I've seen it.
Find out bug exoskeleton will spark a blaze. Yes, yes, sir. And you keep in mind that the bulb's running at over 600 degrees Fahrenheit, so it can light anything on fire. When you're talking about the surface area of the metal of our LEDs and its passive cooling, we left the channels big enough so it's really easy to wash and clean. There are other fixtures that may be passively cooled, but they're not easy to clean and they're not IP rated, so it's kind of hard to do that. You make it IP65 rated, you can spray with a hose when it's on or off, it doesn't care, and it just drips right through and runs off, no buildup.
Yeah, that's why I like those a lot, especially for the greenhouse application. It makes a lot of sense because sometimes you forget to leave the louvers open and shit like that, and you can fry your lights pretty quick if you in that kind of scenario. Or have it, the new employee leaves the louvers open and then get a rainstorm and your lights are on at night, and that shit just explodes.
Come back to an arc welder. What's that big dispensary? It just happened to one of the big grows in Northern California. They lost like 280,000 square feet.
That was
They're running double ended bulbs. That happened. What you just described.
how do you know something?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. If I can remember it, I'll say it again later. But we just read it. And we were like,
Jungle Boys posted about it.
yeah, they
Well,
did.
one thing that I think is interesting too is that, like it opens up a whole nother level of beneficial insects. Like Steve was just talking about, flying insects, when you try to use them indoors with those high powered lights, you just turn them into bug zappers. You're just watching your money fly into the lights and burn up, so it really allows you to do that.
Yeah, I've seen that's happen to me too when I tried beneficials the first time indoors, flying into the lights.
Yeah, because the infrared of the bulb lures them. It's like they see the infrared and they go towards it.
Right. And then it's so hot, they just, melt, they make a mess, and they don't eat anything, which is what, like ultimately what you buy them for. And so, and I think that when you go LED, it just allows you to use any sort of flying beneficial insect, whereas if you have those high-powered lights, they're just going to fly right to the lights, be attracted to it, and fall down and die. So, it's just not effective.
Very, very valid point.
I would interject that not any LED. I have some LEDs that have fans on them, and they love to suck those bugs right in them.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. It would be difficult, I think, to get an IP rated unit with a fan.
That was the problem with the comparison. That was the problem with the comparison that Fish did between Spectrum King. I believe it was actually Black Dog. We didn't mention that earlier, and not to put Black Dog down, but they had fans, and that was his big thing, that the fans sucked them, just became full of bugs. And that's one thing he hated about that. And I believe you're the lights that he tested of yours, Brandon, were that were passive, right? You don't have fans.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you guys recently put out an article. It's like WTF par. So do you guys want to talk about that, about high par numbers and how people cheat? I know I've seen, I know how some of them angle all the panels and some of the other cheats they do, because you had a really cool video on it.
Well, Rami and I for years have been saying, the world is not par centric. Neither are plants. Par isn't the be all end all. When you look at what par is, it measures the visible spectrum. Why? Because certain manufacturers look better that way, because we don't see the negative side of their bulbs, for example. But we always said, let's measure the range that plants actually use. And then we showed you that there's a energy-weighted curve of the bandwidths of light, where certain bandwidths are weighed more heavily than others. That doesn't mean you'll get better plants. That simply means the sensor measures them with more ease than other bandwidths of light. So if I push specific band-meter ranges really high in the reds, I'll have these phenomenal par numbers, but that does not mean phenomenal plant growth under it. It just looks good as a number on paper. People will say, look at these numbers are great. Well, par ain't all that in a bag of chips.
You can trick par with green LED light.
Trick it with a certain amount of blue. I mean, and blue's not weighted properly. So even if you have the right amount of blue in your fixture and you have a balanced spectrum light, if, for example, natural sunlight has everything in it, it's not weighted the same as these sensors measure. So when these guys figured out, these other manufacturers, what specific reds made the meters read higher, they just put a ton of that in their fixtures. The problem is that when you're in that range, plants tend to stretch quite a bit. So you'll see some of these other LEDs where even an indica that should be a bush will look kind of stretchy and flimsy, because those bandwidths have made the plants reach up for it.
It's because plants look for intensity first, spectrum second. If they're not getting the right intensity, then they're pretty much trying to search for it. They're trying to go up and search for it, and that's why plants are stretchy when you have high doses of red light.
Similar to like a plant in the shade that thinks it can grow towards the sun and find it, basically. Like it knows it's alive, but it should be better, right? I mean, that's ultimately what we're talking about.
Plants want to grow. You give them some photon energy, they'll work it, but if you give them the right photon energy, that's when it really gets interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that somehow the plant realizes that it's not getting its full potential, right? And however it knows, I don't know, maybe Steve or some of these other guys that know more about genetics and plants than I do, but for
bigger leaves too. I think plants growing in the shade, they compensate. I've noticed by just making a bigger leaf simply.
They try to
one. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, what you're saying. I mean, you know that because I've definitely noticed that the same clone, you know, a clone grown in the full sun compared to the shade. Exactly what Marty's saying. This exact same plant, you know, it's compensating by changing its shape, you know, making its leaves bigger so it can do more photosynthesis. So it makes sense that if you have a red shifted light, I've always thought that HPSs were red shifted and that plants act as if they're in the shade under a high pressure sodium, which is weird because you think it's real bright, but the plant seems to think it's in the shade.
Because they don't have the right balance of spectra. That's the thing. When you have that spike there and all that infrared,
yeah,
stretch, like you said. That's why Skywalker OG was so, you know, crazy. It used to chase the light.
Well, no, I mean it's like you know, when people use the 2700 Kelvin, they use that for veg. It's like, why would you do that? Because the plant is just going to try to stretch up for the light. It's not the right spectrum for the plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that it somehow knows, like, not just that whatever it's getting just should be, but the difference between like being completely happy and just growing normal growth, and somehow realizing that, you know, the plant having some sort of intelligence to know that over there could be a brighter sun, whereas one that's just in the sun will grow normally. Like, how does it know to expect a different environment? I think it's fascinating.
Just like you were born, you know, to be roughly a certain size, but had you had a different diet and lived in a different environment, you would be a slightly different shape yourself.
Right.
So it's really interesting. Well, genetics, you know, you can take the same strain and make it look like two different strains simply by changing the light source over it and the diet you feed it. The plants have photoreceptors. That's where they harvest photons. And keep in mind, photons to a plant is like a beverage to us. That's their food. That's a big
right.
And how they process everything else they pull up from the roots. So
like a smoothie.
They're going to take any photons they can get. But when you give them the right photons, they go on the junky diet and the plant develops thicker and stronger. The leaves get smaller and they get tighter node spacing. That's when you know you've given them the sauce they want to eat. You know, when you grow your favorite plants outside and you take them inside, most guys will double take it. Go, you sure you took the right cut? Because this does look like a different plant. When you get the right spectrum, they start looking very similar, indoor and outdoor.
Right.
So, what are some problems you're seeing with people when you're helping them lately? And then what are some of the maybe misconceptions you're hearing a lot lately, or questions you guys are getting a lot, you know, maybe in the last 6 months to a year? Maybe some more common issues or questions.
Actually, one of the common things thankfully, it's getting much easier to deal with. I've seen an exponential acceptance of VPD charts. A year ago, when I told people about VPD, they told me basically, you know, a large portion of old school HBS guys told me I was completely full of shit, didn't know what I was talking about. You've never grown plants before, you're getting mold, you're mildew, yada yada. And I said, do you understand?
Do you want me to run my room? Yeah, we got
now.
Yeah. Are you sure? Like, yeah.
Your plant's doing this?
Yeah.
Or are they doing this?
Right.
Mine are doing this.
Yeah. And when I explained to people that, and I gave them a couple caveats in reference to why it's this way under LED, they're now aware of there are successful grows by LED and more people are posting good clips that they don't fight me as much. I used to get guys really angry coming at me hot, telling me I don't know what I'm doing. Now they're going, hey man, how does that work and why? And I love it when someone wants to learn something and they're actually curious, not you know, combative about it. Then other guys go, hey man, all I did was follow what B said and look at my plants. I'm not going to complain with that when I take a guy who's a veteran who's never grown a plant in his life and calls me and says, hey man, I just want to grow my own medicine. I don't know what I'm doing. And I walk them through it. I send them my VPD chart with notes, distances, climate, temperature you want to do. Just give them the basic variables. And our last Growers Challenge, the second prize winner is one of my trained veterans on his first crop. So yes, it can be done by anybody that wants to listen, man.
That's great. You know, I've found that a lot. I have a Patreon account for Aquaponic Cannabis, and I do it for free for any vets who want to do it. So if you're watching this video, do you want help? Give me a shout out. I'll give you free access. But what I found with all of them across the board is they're fantastic at like just taking the information and running with it. You know, like they'll ask, you know, really valid questions that, you know, really don't want to waste your time. So my experience with them has been great, and I feel like they're successful because they, you know, they're at that place where they just, you know, they want to take up that information and use it, and seeing them have success is like just so much fun. It's great. Like there's really nothing else that compares to it. It's pretty cool.
We've been pretty fortunate. We have been able to help a lot of veterans, and it is a very cool thing, like you said. When you see someone's personality change, they're happier, they're doing something, they start helping other veterans. It's a good thing. Very good.
Selfies with, you know, with their plants and stuff, and smoking their plants, and yeah, and you know, it doesn't always, you know, I don't think that you know, like maybe they don't get the right strain at first or whatever, you know, but they always have, you know, some benefit from doing it, even if, you know, like maybe it doesn't like perfectly help their PTSD. I feel like even just the method of gardening and all that stuff really helps out, and they all vocalize that too, like just being with the plants and taking care of them and nurturing them and being a part of that process, and then they get the right strain. Like I have a couple of guys now that are like 4 or 5 runs deep, and they've, you know, they're finding out different things that work for them and understanding there's such a variety. Like there's no cannabis doesn't work for me unless you smoke like 1,200 strains. I'm just not going to buy that off the top. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of these guys have come to that realization too, and found like real success in growing their own meds and treating themselves with them. And that's like, it's just really cool. Or cancer patients, another one, you know, right along that same line. I had a lady contact me. One of her family members had gotten sick, and they wanted to grow their own meds to help them through chemo. And I've had that same scenario come up a couple of times, and that's just, it's really gratifying to have that sort of like just the pics that come back, the feedback. It's so much fun. So, you know, if you have an opportunity to, you know, for you seasoned guys that are listening, because I know a lot of you guys are growers that are listening. If you've got somebody that needs help, and it's almost a selfish thing, but it's so much fun. Like when you see them producing and all that, like it'll be more than worth it. So help them out if you got them.
I mean, it's like when kids take a poop for the first time. Honestly, I don't have any kids, but I have nephews. And, you know,
you watch them poop, you sick bastard.
Hey, listen, I got my brother saying, "Hey man, look at my kids poop. Look at my kids poop."
Yeah, or like first steps, you know.
We have the same kind of thing on the forum where we got a Bud of the Month contest, and it's been so pleasurable when you're talking about how you feel when you teach a guy on his first grow, because you have to buy our genetics to enter the contest, and when you grow them out, and we teach them how to grow, and we had 2 times we've had a first-time grower, his first grow, win the freaking contest. Like you said, you had a competition, and to have like the first-time growing, and the guy wins by the vote of the entire community. You know, it wasn't judging; it was a vote by everybody in the community, and that is very rewarding. Like you said, you know,
What would
hell of a job.
What would you say if I told you that the person who won the second prize had one plant with 109 colas on it?
That's awesome.
I have time. Let's do it. Search it out. So we did.
That's great.
Nice. So what are some of the other things that you've seen people running into, or maybe weird questions or problems you've seen people have and then come to you guys for?
Well, there's a large portion of people out there who refuse to read, and they just want to call and ask. So, you know, like the hanging distance, proper hanging distance of the light, it's hanging on a tag off the light, but they'll call us. And me being me, I'll say, you see that? Did you just bring the light out of the box? Yeah. You see that red and white thing hanging off it? Why don't you take a look at it? You know?
One of the problems that I actually just, I'm realizing I'm running into it again. a lot of the customer base out there, a lot of the people looking to get anywhere between 100 to 200 fixtures, they don't know that they can get rebates now. You have PG&E getting offering rebates. You have oh yeah,
Yeah.
You have Excel Power in Colorado. Black Hills.
Washington.
You have
Puget,
Puget
yeah.
Sound. You have companies now offering rebates for LED lighting in horticultural applications.
Now, I know Josh was working with a company where they'll buy the lights and then like lease them to you for the cost of the rebate difference or whatever. Do you guys ever work with anybody like that, or is that something that you guys have heard of?
We've had some people that like do research or do rebate research for customers because like people never know who their power company is or they don't know exactly, and we'll find out. But some of the companies we talked to, people were kind of dipping a bit deeper than we were comfortable with doing to people.
Dude,
So,
I mean, we'll just do the work. Honestly, all we need is your zip code and who's your company, and we'll dig into it. We'll let you know if there's rebates or not, and what you need to do, and what form you need to fill out, and that's it.
Well,
That's
so
awesome.
the company it would be cool for you guys to hook up with actually. It's a company that's local here where I'm from. It's called Grower Rebates, and what they'll do is for the customer, I'm the grower. They'll put the upfront money, so I don't have to cover the upfront cost, 100, 120 grand, 220 grand, and I just had to pay the rebate cost, and they run the whole program.
That's very similar to what we did in the commercial lighting industry when we did light in our bright light side, because aside from Spectrum King, we have a commercial lighting side for homes, offices, and field lighting.
if you have a link to that, share it, man. I'll dig into it to see what areas they're willing to work with, et cetera, et cetera. If that can help somebody, that's amazing.
Please, yeah.
No, for sure. Like I had actually called you guys. I don't remember who I talked to when I was doing my thing, but at the time you guys didn't have a greenhouse fixture available. Yeah, it was about that time exactly, and so I thought it was cool that you said that and didn't try to because I ended up buying an indoor fixture that someone sold me for a greenhouse.
Wow. Well, it was probably your phone call that got me mad enough to go make a damn greenhouse fixture. So thanks for that call.
Right on.
Oh yeah,
Sure wasn't the only one.
always wanting to accommodate.
Big greenhouses being built out here. Let's just say it was definitely a strategic move by you guys. I think it was very, very intelligent and probably in demand. I'm sure like you guys in the past have always talked about like listening to growers and what they want and trying to figure out the math of how to make it work or the science, as it were. Brought my science cup for you guys tonight.
That's one of the biggest questions I get all the time too, is how, these outdoor growers, how can I supplement? Would it be a good idea to add, like we've talked all about waking your plants up and putting them to sleep on the show with you guys before. I still get that all the time. Outdoor grower, I want to add light, to my outdoor grow. What should I do? What kind of lights and all that stuff, And it's a tough question because you got so much going on out there,
Yeah, and when to supplement. I think that's one thing that like I get asked about a lot, or maybe it gets overlooked a lot too, because like when does it make sense to supplement light outdoors? Is it's a it's highly debated, but it's definitely something I think you should look up some information on if you're going to be supplementing light outdoors in a greenhouse. When you provide the light is pretty important, especially if you're trying to keep plants in veg or put them into flower. Like all those things are pretty important. And we had a grow here locally that didn't think that through and what was trying to finish an early harvest, and math didn't turn out right, and obviously everything started to re-veg and cause lots of problems. So just be aware if you are going to supplement at different times, if you're trying to, you still have to remember the length of day and nighttime that you're dealing with as you supplement that light. And then
It's more so the length of night than the day, because the plants can only detect length of night. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brendon.
No, that's correct. That is correct. Well, I can say that, but maybe not, you weren't asking me. But yeah, it's all the night, about the night, the dark period, not the light period.
Actually, Brendon, can you explain that a little bit about the hormone buildup? Do you know much about that?
Well,
I'm sure you do.
when you look, you're looking outside sunrise and sunset. That's why we were so big on sunrise and sunset with our system, because plants react differently, wake up and start acting faster and go to sleep better if you give them a sunrise and a sunset. But if you think about it when you're growing outdoors, when the sun first comes up in the morning, it's that really reddish orange. You know, start hitting the bluish white around 10:30, 11, and you get that really high at noon. You know, you're at a with 5,500 Kelvin or so, depending on where you are in the world. Then at the end of the day, it goes back down to that 2,100 or so when it's sunrise, you get sunset. If you understand that and can bring your light up gently, and your light has those bandwidths in it, not just a single point like an HPS has. It doesn't really have the bandwidths that help plants wake and go to sleep. So it's like if you were laying in bed and someone walked up and punched you to get up running and go to work, you'll get up angry, but you'll be confused. It's the same with plants. You turn the lights on, and it takes them 2 hours to figure out what the hell just happened, because you haven't eased them out of that deep sleep and then triggered them to go to sleep. So when you're playing with your day length, you have to make sure you get them to night properly. There's just the hard, like lights on, then lights off. It takes them 2 hours to figure out what's happening with the lights on. And it takes them 2 hours to figure out what happened when the lights went off. Four. You got 4 right there. There's a beauty to sunrise and sunset and this particular bandwidths of light triggered to activate the plant to wake and go to sleep faster and easier with less stress. Basically what it comes down to.
Right. And so when your plants are all the way awake and you want to extend the daytime, for instance, then in my experience, I've always tried to extend it after they are already awake and then try to shut it down so that they can get a little bit of twilight. And that's what I'm trying to extend, so I get a longer veg time. So maybe I planted late, or just the place that I'm at, I want to, or maybe I had an early harvest, and so that's why I planted late. But anyway, if you're trying to extend the plant to go farther in the veg and flower later in the year, then you want to extend out the daytime after they've already been awake. I've had a lot of people that, like, after their plants start going to sleep, they turn on their lights after, like, pretty much all the natural light is gone. And I've never felt like that has, like, been effective when I've seen it grown that way. So I've always waited till the plants essentially we're getting max light already, and then extending that time frame out a little bit, but still trying to shut them down so they could sort of naturally get some twilight before they went back to sleep. And that's still I feel like extended veg time, even up to 3 weeks, just by doing an extra, say, hour and a half, and then still allowing the very end of twilight to go down. So I've had good success doing that. So that's usually what I recommend.
And sometimes it's also because they're in a region where they don't get a proper amount of, their darkness is too short in the day.
Sure.
Live with in somewhere off the beaten path, north or south, where the day is much shorter, or the night is much shorter and the days are much longer.
Right.
And then they want to do, they want to extend, so it doesn't go into flower. They want to extend their veg period only to keep it from flowering, because the day gets shorter in the dark. Well, we talk about the day getting shorter, although we all know that it's the dark period that affects it, but it's hard to start talking backwards.
Right.
So what would you recommend for an indoor grower for veg times and flowering times?
Well,
with the daylight and nightlight stuff.
It's when I'm a standard veg indoors for me is when my plants are teens and it's just 18 hours of light, 6 hours of sleep. I like to, with the sunrise sunset function, it could be as short as 10 minutes, and it'll still get you better results in your plants than just lights on, lights off.
To answer your question, Stephen, we don't really know what spectrum is best to prolong the cycle. What I've always done, and I'm sure what Brendon's always done, was just, simply either train your plant or super crop it or top it. That's just what I've always done. As far as spectrum is best to prolong it, I
Oh,
haven't used
no, 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 no. I just meant what, how long are you keeping your lights on? Are you doing 18, like he said, 18 hours on, 6 hours off, and then for flower, are you doing 12-12? You're doing 13-11? Are you doing 11-13?
I did 11-13. I like the DJ Short method, but most people do 12-12. It's like it's standard. But
there's no difference. 11-13, you're totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like 11-13 personally.
I find
I think you can modify that depending on your grow too. You can start off at 12-12 and drop down to 11-13. And I have been accidentally, I don't know if I was sabotaged by the wife or what happened, but I just found out I've been flowering for the most part for 13.5 hours after I had set it at 12-12 originally. I went in there the other day and it was on, the light was on early, and I went in there one day and the light was on late, so I checked it the other day to modify that, but I hadn't had a problem with any of the flowering because I'm in flower. But I noticed, and we've talked about this before, a lot. I've read this years ago that some guys said once you put them into flower and they truly, like after 2 weeks in flower, I know a lot of guys that like to go to 13-11 or even 14-10 and still claim that it won't revert to veg at 14-10. Now, that's a little bit of a stretch. I worry about that a little bit. I think 13-11, as Steve mentioned, it down to 11-13. And then if you're really trying to get done quickly, you can even drop it to 10 if you need to finish for some reason. But yeah, I think that anywhere in that spectrum, you're good. And if you try it, you'll find that you won't see a lot of difference. You'll be successful either way you choose. And that's how we teach a lot too. You got to make your own choices and decisions by experiencing it, not just having us tell you how to do it. You got to do it yourself after grow, and then you'll truly come to realize what you want and what's best for your plants and your system and your environment.
So what are some of the other more interesting things you guys have learned or figured out lately with your different lighting projects? You guys are always up to so many cool things.
I kind of nerd out on specific blends and intensities to see what results I can get from them. And, because Rami, or his brother Rami with other partners, we patented our spectrum. And the funny part is, just a few short years ago, all those other LED companies were saying we're idiots, we know what we're doing. You guys are clowns, plants don't use any of that. Now they're all copying us, and a few of them were dumb enough to copy us a bit too closely. So let's just put it this way: that you'll see that there used to be a bunch of known names in the industry. Now a few of them just don't exist anymore. It's because they try to get ahead the wrong way. I literally copyright infringement and blatant stealing of IP. So, frustrating, but it happens. I guess they say the sincerest form of flattery is that, but.
Well, at least they got shut down. I mean, obviously that's unfortunate, but I've known people that haven't been as successful getting the people that have stole their intellectual property to stop using it. So, I'm glad that they got shut down. That's definitely a good thing.
It's still happening. It's every other week. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm like, wow. And I just say, Rami, you gotta get David, look at this thing. Or and I focus on making good stuff and getting it to people in a timely fashion. We're obsessed with it. All the other negative kind of things that happen, luckily, the other guys take most of the heavy lifting on that. I'm obsessing over getting more light per watt of energy, and new technology, new things that come to light to facilitate us to make better fixtures that use less power. The 602 gives off 18% more light than the 600 which preceded it, and does that by consuming less power as well. So we keep testing it and it keeps pushing forward. And because we're a Crete branding partner, we work in tandem with them and push them to come out with cooler stuff. So we've proven what we can do with their tech. We push them to make new tech based on the new stuff we've learned along the way. So, never stops.
And I think that that led to your greenhouse light and your low profile light, and obviously those aren't maybe they're not going to affect say the average home grower as much as they are different commercial industries, like we talked about, everything from being able to stack vertically, which can totally change when you take into account that like certain counties will only count your footprint as your square footage area for a grow, and you can stack 3 levels on top of that same square footage area that you would otherwise only have 1 level, and still be able to produce quality in pounds, right? Units. Go ahead.
Have you seen those big rolling racks they now put in? Because some cities said you have each grow in your big facilities 4,500 square feet. Now you owe us this much for tax for it. Well, these guys put in these big rolling racks that have 3 levels. So, you know, they don't take up all 4,500 square feet. They take up about 4,200 times 3, 12,600 square foot of canopy in a 4,500 square foot room. The problem is some counties and cities got wise to that, and now they charge you. If you say you're 4,500 square feet and you say you have 3 levels, they charge you 13,500 square foot tax. So if your state hasn't done that yet, or your county, your city hasn't done that yet, vertical farming looks very interesting until you see how hard it is to work that high up.
Oh, it's a bitch.
Yeah.
Right.
Back
Even 2 levels, though. I think most of the vertical places that I've been in, I can only remember having 2 levels and then storage on the 3rd level, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I definitely think if you're going to do that, you're going to need a low profile option as opposed to a light that needs more headspace. You know, so I definitely think, but I do think that has a nice crossover with closet growers or people that are limited on headspace based on where they live, who just want to grow for themselves. So I do think that's a definite, you know, crossover product there. The greenhouse product, you know, maybe not as much, but man, there are so many greenhouses going up on the West Coast right now. It's just not even funny. They're just everywhere. So, you know, it makes complete sense to get that product out there. So I think that, you know, both of them are going to fit well with the commercialization that's happening right now.
There are millions of square feet greenhouse going up in California alone.
So earlier you were talking about VPD being misunderstood. Do you want to touch on that and maybe touch on the importance of leaf surface temperature? I know you talked about it last time, but it's been quite a while, and I think there's a lot of newer people that listen to the show, and it might be good for them.
Well, basically, vapor pressure deficit, in simplest of terms, it's like barometric pressure in a boat. Your plant functions best with certain external pressures exerted on it. It pushes it to operate. And the higher the temperature, the more moisture it holds in balance. So if you're growing and you believe, I say this as a caveat with infrared light, but if you believe your room is at 73 degrees Fahrenheit, your humidity should be at a certain level in the 50s, maybe 60. Most growers are stuck on that old school thing that 40% is as high as you can go. That's all it is. So when you tell them to grow their room at 85 degrees and 70% humidity in flower, they think you've lost your mind and are utterly clueless about how to grow cannabis or anything else. Lovely dab there. and so, well, it got me with the dab thing. It got me up.
You know, it's I got a customer in Colorado, well, ex-customer. Pretty much, he was just testing out a light, and you know, he was testing out a light side by side versus his 1,000-watt. Now, he was communicating with me about his temps. You know, he was saying, hey, man, I'm running my temps, doing my feed regimen. My temps are 74 degrees. I'm like, what the hell are you doing running LED in 74 degrees? Oh, well, that's what I keep my HPS at. Well, don't bump it up. I need you to bump it up to 82 to 86, depending on your strain. This guy was growing sativa, so I told him to bump it up to 86 and get your humidity up to at least 60 to 65%. What did he tell me? I'm not budging below 45%. I'm not budging above 45%. And why? Because his whole life he's been growing this way and he's not going to change. So, listen, you can't change someone like that. You know, he was saying his plants were doing a week behind, and yeah, no shit, because the plants aren't transpiring. They're not getting
conditions they need.
They're not getting the conditions they need to transpire properly. They're not sweating.
No photorespiration, because you know, when you have the right balance of temperature and humidity, your plants accelerate their growth and they'll give you better results too. getting people to accept that is a lot easier now than it was just last year. I mean, like Warren mentioned, I mean, 2 years ago I said VPD to something. I basically got a nice warm up. You should drink a nice warm cup and go fuck yourself. You're clueless. There's no way you're gonna have mold and mildew. It's over. There's no way you've ever grown before, man. There's no way. You just won't do that. When I did do it, and we showed them, and we had the monitors on camera and on screen, and pointed the finger at every day. There it is. There it is. There it is. And then other guys, first-time growers like our vets we've trained, started doing the same thing, and they had great crops. The haters got less numbers and quieter. Now, this year, enough people have said it, done it, shown it, to where it's becoming accepted. And the big commercial grows that hire agronomists, well, they know this already. That have, master gardeners in greenhouses, they know this already. So luckily, these massive grows, if they've hired the right people, they're going to be imbalanced. The guys growing up, in Adelanto, California, there's all kinds of things going up, and it gets really hot there.
It's pretty sad what it's come to, but I think VPD was accepted once Jungle Boys posted a picture of it on their Instagram. I think that's when it started to get accepted by the public. It's pretty sad.
Any way that it gets accepted, as long as it does by me, it's a win. I don't care how we get there. I want to get there. To show people that when you see your plants high five in the room, as we call it, and they're happy and the node spaces are tight, the buds are fattening, I want more of that. I don't want to see guys say, these lights don't work, it sucks. And I see the plant leaves over here drooping down, and I see his thermometer says 72 and his humidity says 30. I'm going, that's not going to work. It just, you can't do that and expect a positive result. The reason we have the settings preferred, and the simplest of terms, HPS guys think their plants are cooler because that's what the AC thermometer says. That isn't accurate at all. If you take a laser thermometer and measure your plant's actual canopy temperature, you're going to see it's 83, 85, maybe even hotter. So I tell guys that don't believe me when they go to see the rooms, where are your best looking buds? Where's your favorite plants in the room? Break the thermometer, point to the top of the plants, take the number and go, what's it say?
Mm-hmm.
That's wrong. I go, okay, then you do it.
Right.
Oh, shit. Boom. Light goes off. Now there's credibility to it. And I say, all I want you to do in your LED room is get it up until the plants say it's this temperature. Can you do that for me? Get some humidity in there to balance it, and the magic will happen. I'm telling you, you can save even more AC if you let the room get hotter, let the moisture level come up.
Yeah, that's a great way to communicate an understanding of it that's missing. Like once they realize, oh, the plant needs to be at the same temperature, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a great analogy. I like that.
It was funny until we showed them the laser thermometer trick. I mean, the nice warm cup of go F yourself was more often. When I showed them that proof, and some of these big commercial grower guys, well, our growers' world is getting bigger, but the core element of people, those have been around for years, there's not that many of us, the truth be told. So it's becoming more widespread amongst our world. It's not as a dangerous or taboo subject like it used to be. Guys thought back in the day, I mean, there are people up in certain parts of Canada that swear by 72 and 40% humidity. They don't want to hear anything else. Well, I say that if that's how you grow, then I don't expect you to move forward like this way, because the whole grow world's changing. Plant science is changing. If you stay abreast of it, you'll see that I'm not making this up. This is real stuff. This is not Brendon from Spectrum King going, this is how the way the world's supposed to work. I'm taking what the top scientists and all the big schools and universities are proving, going, we should be doing that if these guys are getting those results. Remember, back in the day, if you got 2 pounds of light 10 years ago, you were an ace. There are people getting 3, 4+ pounds per light now because they're studying the plant science and getting the results that go with it. Light science is a big part of that, but the environmental conditions are just as important.
That's really awesome. I had a follow-up question and I totally stoned down and I hit the pipe again.
Well, then, play your mental hold music and I'll fire my vape up and you think about that long and hard.
What about anybody else on the panel? Do you guys have any lighting questions? Brendon's like lighting guru.
I feel like I've been talking the whole time. So, what about Dutch? Dutch, you gotta have a question.
Well, I'll throw the question out that I kind of was fucking around with earlier in the season. So I'm, I like to push things. I'm a, pusher type of guy. And so I'm new to outdoor in the last couple of years. And I threw all these plants out early season, way too early. I threw some, just whatever, light bulbs on them to hold photo period, right? I'd flip them on in the middle of the night. They'd hold photo period.
Mhm.
And I had this thought that, I could either run these, supplemental. They're not really supplemental. They're just holding photo period.
Mhm.
All the way through the summer, and then maybe turn them off first, second, third week of July. And because the plants were used to running, 24 hours or having this long photo period, that they just flip on to, 16 and a half, 17 and a half, where I'm up north, almost by Canada. They'd flip right into flower. And I never actually got to test that this summer because it was a half-baked idea, quite literally. So yeah, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, if you're gonna, it's a fine line between hold photo period and maintain plants in veg longer.
And also a healthy plant.
Right, a healthy plant, because when you just maintain photo period, a lot of times it's not enough intensity to get the result you want. So you have a really confused plant going, I'm not really awake, I'm not really asleep. What the hell is happening? And they stretch and they morph and they get weird because they're not really understanding which way to go. You have to have a minimum level hitting the plants to trigger and keep them in a state of veg, for example. Like you mentioned earlier, I have the sunrise sunset function with our commercial lights, but you could get a module like the Ziggy module and do it with your phone on newer stuff we're making now too. If you have a couple lights or a light in your room, but what you want to do is wake them up and then get them in the light intensity. Now, if you're doing a big greenhouse scenario, for example, guys typically have what's known as a light harvester sensor on the roof, and it says, well, the sun's at this level, and as the sun gets brighter, the lights get turned down and off. And then late in the afternoon, when the sun starts dimming, the lights come back on, and then they go until you turn off your photo period for the time you set it. I have some guys that do like 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., so they get their 18 hours of light. But from 5 to 5:15, it's coming up, ramping up. And then as the sun comes out, the light levels can go down and you continue in the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you can straight up set a level to do a ramp up period for however long you want, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and do a ramp down for 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever you want.
It's that long or shorter if you want. It's your method. But if you have the right amount of light, they will maintain that. And there are guys I know that Christmas, they cut the clones. After New Year's, they pop them in big buckets and things, and they start vegging them then. And they're not moving them outside until June. So these plants have got, all those 4.5, 5 solid months of vegging. They are huge when they put them outside and flip them to flower. And these things are like, each one takes up just about a 10 by 10 area by itself. So they train them and just veg them out for a longer period of time. They just maintain the photo period, but enough intensity to keep them in the right state they want them to be in. When you have too low intensity, it tends to confuse the plants. There's a trigger point, but there's a set point where they accept what they're supposed to be doing and work with it.
Well, it comes down to proper photosynthesis cannot occur with inadequate light levels.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah. That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, cool. I mean that makes a little bit more sense rather than. Well, I guess we've all. I've been under the notion that you could just trick them, like you say, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're tricking them. You're confusing them. Right. Trickery is confusion, and that's a much better way to think about it rather than like, haha, we can pull this magic trick and that actually trickery is confusion, and there's some thought that has to go on there in the plants world.
Right, and we like, for example, our Mother's Little Helper is 140 watt light, and I had a guy in Hawaii who he plays in grow light ores, and he's buying these 140s, and shipping to Hawaii is not cheap, and he's like every few weeks he got a few more, and he sent me some pictures, and Hawaii's weather doesn't change that much, sunlight during the year because they're pretty much equatorial. So what he was doing, he was this big greenhouse. He was forcing the veg longer and longer and longer, and then moving into his flowering greenhouse. And these things were absolutely massive. And so even in Hawaii, just by having the right amount of light to trigger the plants to extend their veg, you could do it. Luckily, they have plenty of humidity for their own natural VPD, but same token, they sometimes have too much. So he had actual air extraction things that remove the extra humidity from his greenhouses. Where we put swamp coolers to blow it into our desert ones here, they actually extract it there.
Right. That's what I have to do in my greenhouse. I have to extract. It gets to, well, because we get 90% humidity a lot of times. Over 90 sometimes. Like it's been over 90 for 3 days, but I'll move it.
That's a great topic. So there's a lot of people right now that are dealing with a lot of smoke and ash in California. If they have greenhouses and are running your lights or anything, what kind of maintenance do they need to do to make sure that they stay running well?
Well, the problem with ash is that it's a phenomenal insulator. So anything electric you have that gets ash on it needs to be wiped off very quickly, because that just turns it into an insulated blanket and the heat does not dissipate. So whether it's, I don't care if it's your air conditioning condenser, you need to hose it down and wipe it off often if you're in those environments, because they're really going to suffer and overheat. Our lights you can hose off, as you know, just spray our light, that's the easy part. But for everything else you have electric that's exposed, that's going to get ash on it. Even your greenhouse glass, you need to squeegee that stuff off, because in the ash is some particulates which can actually damage the glass and start to degrade it faster. Pretty acidic.
Interesting. That's pretty interesting. But you'd want to probably do that anyway, because the glass ain't going to do much good if it's covered with soot.
Yeah,
but it'll screw it up if you leave it there. If you get lazy. All right, that was cool.
Yeah, and just remember, you're probably gonna have to change your filters. In basically anything, whether it's your, however you're filtering in your air, system. If you're pulling any air in from the outside, it's not filtered somewhere. I'm talking every filter. Like the filters in your car are probably going to be nasty if you live in Oregon or California right now. Just everything that has a filter, change it.
Yeah.
Basically.
More often if you're in an area, for sure.
Right.
Yep.
Here in Southern Oregon, it's been really bad. We've got fires in Southern Oregon here just to our north in Grants Pass. Had friends evacuated from that one, and then just below us in Redding, obviously they've got that huge devastating fire down there, and so we're getting smoke from no matter which way the wind is blowing, and it settles here in the valley, and so it's been really rough. And I got family in Redding; they got evacuated from there. Luckily, their house hasn't burned down yet, so we'll see how that goes. It's still obviously not looking great, but all this ash is spreading, for literally hundreds of miles, and it becomes a problem. Wash your cars, like all of that stuff becomes a problem. But as far as like greenhouses and stuff go, you're pretty much going to be like, I don't know what, a third of the time on your filters, I would think. Like it has to be seriously degrading the amount of.
Yeah. It shortens the lifespan for sure.
How has the recent legalization, especially with places like in the South and stuff, is that affecting you guys quite a bit now? Or does that have a big impact on y'all's business?
Well, the odd thing with states going legal is everyone gets really excited and they want to get going and they want to get growing and they want to get the permit and they want to get the facility. And then they walk into the city they think that's going to let them grow because it's legal. They find out that the city doesn't allow it. So you have to find another city that will allow it in a legal town. Then you get to that city and they say,
oh yeah,
you have to have this much money in the bank and you have this. So there's so many hoops to jump through. I have guys in Michigan that have literally been trying to get the permit, their certificate of occupancy signed off for a year and a half. There are grow ops in California. Like we went legal in theory, but there's all these new licenses you need. We have maybe 7%, 8% of growers are actually registered and legal. So there's all kinds of stupid crackdowns now. LA City finally is starting to give permits out and certify people. because they said, no, it's our city, our county. We're going to make the rules and we'll give the licenses. So we have people who've been growing for dispensaries in broad daylight for the past few months, hoping no one knocks on their door with a badge and a gun, because technically speaking, they're in limbo. They're a known business, they're paying taxes, but they're not permitted until they get their thing signed off of. So,
which is really unfortunate. We had a similar situation in Oregon. Go ahead, Roger.
Isn't it also true that if they did knock on there, that they're highly illegal because they haven't been licensed yet? They shouldn't be growing at all. I mean, but they're trying to get a jump. I think that allegedly,
No, you're right. You're right. There have been doors kicked in and people forcibly removed from the industry recently, and there's a bunch of dispensaries running here in town. The law, California law, is pretty straightforward. Like back in the day, you could open a jar and look at it, smell it, grab it up. Everything's pre-packaged and sealed now. So when you walk into a dispensary in LA and it still has jars you can look at, you better hope they don't have cameras filming that you were there, because when the cops take that videotape, they're going to close this guy here and they're going to come after you.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate that they can't provide the licensing that they're supposed to. Whether or not people are trying to get a jump or not trying to get a jump or whatever. That's a decision that's up to them. But obviously, being able to get it in a timely manner, when you have realistic expectations, I don't think anybody should be waiting a year and a half for a simple business license. If you were growing tomatoes, you don't even need a business license. You could sell your product on a farm stand, up to what? It's like $38,000 worth or something like that.
$500,000 before you have to register with the Food Safety Act.
Wow.
A year in sales. I know that one.
Yeah. So just think about that. How about we just go by that? As long as I'm not growing more than $500,000 worth of cannabis, we're cool. How come that's not? So I think it's a realistic expectation that if you're going to extort us for money in order to get licensing to grow a plant, then you should at least be able to do it in a timely manner so that they don't have to risk going to jail in order to make a profit and pay their mortgage and do all the normal things that people want to do.
The other thing I want to see is, why can't Cali behave like Colorado with a 6 to 1 year, in some cases 2 year phased in periods, where they come in, they'll be like, hey, you need to change this. Hey, you can't do this anymore. You have 3 months to comply. You have 2 months to comply. You have 1 month to comply. Okay, now you're going to get fined. Why are they just going around swinging with a battle axe? And the other thing too is, so I was just down hanging out with at the Perón Castle. The Castro Castle, and there's a group that was down there, and they're working on a new program just to get state waivers, and there's a lot of support from it on both the Democrat and Republican sides, because so much of the state has banned production. So the state's like, well, I want my tax money, so they're like, the hell with this, we're going to give licenses, and as long as you meet the distance from the school and blah blah blah, the sane restrictions, then they're going to grant them waivers, and that's something that's probably going to happen by the end of the year. So what are the prohibitionists going to do about that?
They're going to keep trying until we stop them. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to get our license July or June or September 29th of last year, and we had a whole church load of people bus in and just cause all kinds of hell for no reason.
Well, welcome.
The devil's weed.
Yeah.
It's the devil.
On the other side, I just, if you're in a non-legal state, listen up, because I was, us in Washington, we got the whooping first.
Yeah.
And I've talked to everybody I talked to. I'm like, listen, I'm not crazy. I'm not stupid. And they're like, no, bro, I got this. And then 6 months later, a year later, it's like, bro, you can't believe what happened. The county said this. I'm like, I know, dude. And I got my ass whooped in the same way, and it hurts still.
Yeah, I mean, even the people that got through and got licensing in Oregon and Washington, none of them will be like, oh yeah, it was a great process. It was super easy and reasonable, and nobody says that.
No.
there's people that buy cars that are probably pieces of shit that still are like, you know, I got a pretty good deal on it. You know, like nobody feels that way after getting their licensing. They're like, this was shit. I hated it. I can't believe I had to do it. It was ridiculous.
I will say it does have one effect. It has 100% enforcement for making sure that there's like no one selling to underage kids and everything else. After going through all that manner of bullshit, you make sure that everyone's compliant there.
Are
You know,
suggesting underage kids can't get weed?
not at a dispensary. They can't.
Exactly.
That hasn't happened yet. Since
Nor
Colorado
can
legalized.
my underage child come into my garden with me.
I would rather a child go to a child. Sorry. let me rephrase that.
Two over.
I would rather a kid go to a dispensary than buy from a drug dealer on the street.
Oh yeah.
That's what moms used to say. I'd rather have them have a beer on Friday night in the house and know where they're at than to go out, you know, or anything, even smoke pot. I'd rather have them smoking a joint with me than out on the street somewhere, you know, doing it like that.
At least you know what you grew it with and it's safe. You don't know where the other stuff came from.
Yeah, and if I can let my kid do something, it's definitely going to be smoke. Huh? I can't imagine my kid drunk. He's already hyper enough as it is. Like,
I'm just so much older.
not excited for that to come down.
I've been through different generations and periods of time where it was, you know, they'd rather them have a beer, and then it's now, you know, 20 years after that, during the 70s and 80s, it's rather than smoke some pot, you know. Just remember how old I am now. So.
You're almost my age now?
Yeah. I think I got you by a bit. Yeah.
We had in Jamaica, they give the kids bush tea. So they take the stems and the sticks and some of the larvae buds, and they make it into a real sweet tea with coconut milk. And then they give it to the kids, and then the kids get real sleepy, and then mom can do, you know, have a break and do laundry and, you know, take a nap for a minute if she needs.
I heard about that recently too.
Yeah, it's real common in the Caribbean.
Anybody who's ever had a 7-year-old boy probably be like, that sounds all right.
Not suggesting anyone does it. I'm just saying it is common practice in Jamaica.
We're all dudes here.
We're having fun.
We're like, yeah, I probably would have drugged that kid if I could have. Yep.
I've seen a few that would be a nice remedy. Yeah.
Thankfully, Bill Crosby is now in jail. Yeah.
Oh, and I wanted to give a shout out. We brushed over it, but I want to say from being over here, I hope everyone survives this massive wildfires all over California and Oregon, and what's going on over there is ape shit crazy. And talk about hot. I've been watching some of the videos, and we've lost many firefighters and a lot of human life, more than usual in this day and age, which is a miracle considering how big these fires are and where they're springing up everywhere. And I just want to give a shout out for everybody. If you're listening somehow and you did, because you listened, but you had to leave your home, we're wishing you the best and hope everything works out for you. So I wanted to throw that in there because, not to make it all solemn or anything, but there's a hell going on out there on the West Coast.
Right.
The Reading, yeah, that stuff's pretty bad. And there's one coming into Grants Pass too that's coming towards town, and people are getting evacuated, and that's always the worst. I mean, the forest burning is one thing, and even has its benefits in certain areas, but you never want to see people's houses, go literally reduced to ashes, and there's so much of that. It's it's rough for sure.
Well, Steve, you got more questions? Oh, you passed on the questions for Brandon and Norris. So we in the hanging out.
It's all good. Charlie.
Yeah, where's Charlie?
Charlie's got a question. Charlie Schultz is here. He's gonna pop on for a minute. He's gonna take my headset.
Perfect timing. Okay, and we segue.
Cool. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Charlie.
Okay, great. Is it Brendon? Right? Yeah, Brendon. Hi, Charlie. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
So Brendon, I know you work with lighting, right? That's your specialty. And where I am at Santa Fe, we're doing a lot of indoor microgreens and lettuce farms. Okay, so kind of away from the high demand of a cannabis light. I've had some questions recently on these new LED type lights, kind of low end for vegetative crops. What's your take on adding green spectrums to lights? Because a lot of people assume that the plants don't use green. We just reflect green away. That's why we see green. Can you touch base on that a little bit?
The notion that plants don't use green light is really old. It's really wrong, and it's still wrong, and it's been disproven. There were multiple university papers, particularly one from Osaka, Japan. It was 2007 that clearly showed in full spectrum white light, green is the transporter of reds and blues to the lower chloroplasts of plants to stimulate better photosynthesis. You can't penetrate a plant without green light. So I wouldn't put a specific green bulb in there, but in full spectrum white light, you need the balances of your blues, reds.
So yeah, you know, it's you wouldn't use green light, especially because green is not as efficient as white when it comes to lumens per watt. So that's why you use white, because it's higher in efficacy and it has a ton of green. Plants use green light just 9% less than any other color.
And if you have full spectrum light, the blend together gives you more light per watt than any other light blend could of colors. So you're saving a lot more energy and getting a lot more bang for your watt by using full spectrum white light with plenty of green in it.
And we all know you need photons to make the plant grow.
Did you hear that, Charlie? He said you need protons to make the plant grow. I believe is what he said.
Yeah. Again, you guys, I'm at the community college in Santa Fe. So when we're looking into these new light technologies, there's definitely two spectrums. We can go high end for cannabis growing, but I think at a lower end, a lettuce farmer is not going to make the returns that maybe a cannabis grower will.
No, but you don't need this. You don't need the same intensity, and the proximity to light dictates lower wattage fixture anyway. Because if you're growing microgreens in a vertical farm setting, for example, you're going to have like every 2 feet another shelf.
For instance, someone growing lettuce and microgreens, I don't need to make a light that has a PCB that's gold plated front and back. I don't need to make a crazy heatsink, crazy spectrum. I just need to make a light. Most microgreens like a 5,000 Kelvin spectrum. You know, that's why our veg light is a purely 5,000 Kelvin spectrum light. But again, we can customize lights for every other need. So for lettuce lights, yeah, we have specific lights for that are cost effective.
And Charlie, I would almost argue, not to be argumentative, but I think at this point, cannabis is cheaper than microgreens per square foot. I used to grow microgreens, and if you're still selling them for at least $20, $25 a pound, they're definitely doing better than cannabis per square foot.
That's what I think too. So it's not out of the question. Let me see.
What's not out of the question? You need a full spectrum, like Orr mentioned, but you just don't need the level of intensity. Since you don't need that level of intensity, you don't need the same quality substrates to put your things on. So you can make a more cost-effective unit for vertical farm and microgreens for sure.
Okay. So it's not out of the question for my clients to contact Spectrum King for their lighting needs for lettuce and vegetative greens, right?
Not at all. In fact, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, we've had a serious influx of vertical farms and customers because A, we listened, and B, we studied the plants to know exactly what they were looking for. I mean,
yep.
There are some key strains which wants a little bit different of this and that, you know, depending on what type of kale you might be growing or broccoli, et cetera, et cetera. But you can get a wide selection of crops, and especially microgreens and grasses, things that aren't going to break a foot tall, with a lower intensity 5,000 K bulb, like we said.
Exactly. Cool. I look forward to connecting with you guys a lot more in the future.
Look forward to it. I love it. You know, it helps to be nerds and want to do stuff. You're doing your side of the nerd plant fence. I'll do my side of the nerd lighting.
Fantastic. Perfect combo.
Fantastic. That's
awesome.
Good.
Look forward to meeting you guys one day too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll put some conferences together, some meetings, maybe aquaponic jamborees or something, and I'll make sure you guys are down in Santa Fe with me. Cool, fantastic. Awesome. I'm going to go up and hang out with Ken Armstrong, our aquaponic guru here at the farm too. And we're going to be watching y'all from the other house. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
I can't wait to get out there and visit y'all either.
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
I'm trying. Hey, might come up in the late fall.
Cool. Maybe we'll coincide our trips, buddy.
All right. It might work. All right. Nice talking to you again.
All right. We'll be listening from a long distance. We may throw a couple questions at you too.
Cool.
Awesome. Peace.
I guess Steve's going to be back here flipping the headset here. Oh, I got one more thing. Brendon, in a segue, since you asked for, I didn't ask a question. I always like to bring this up because, not everybody watches every show or goes back and watches every show. And since you're here, do you still offer a green light for dark periods? And would you like to address that a little bit? Because a lot of people believe if they get a green light, they can put it on in their grow and not affect the what's going on in the dark period. So would you address that again for me?
What it is it kind of brushes on the subject we touched earlier. Green light it's not as intense as white light, and it doesn't startle the plants. It doesn't wake them up. So you can use green light in the dark period. There is a certain nanometer of green that you don't want to use, but
it's an intensity level. You can use it if it's very weak and even spread, like the LED green strip thing we offered at one point to put under your tray, so you can see where you're going without negatively impacting the plants.
And would you say that this is you only? I think we mentioned before, but you don't want to leave it on the entire evening. You only put it on when you need it and get out, right?
Yeah. It's
limited time.
You need, like some guys have the what I call the mining little headlight one, they little strap-on light.
yeah.
And
I never thought. Oh, that'd be a nice marketing. Yeah,
Again, you want to use green because it doesn't excite them, and obviously red will wake them up. Blue will for sure wake them up, and that's why everyone uses green. That's why it's kind of been a standard.
Right, and I think that's something that a lot of people pretty much knew. I was basically talking about the fact that it's got to be there are some spectrums that aren't as good, right? And then it's not something to leave. Like you just don't put it on and sit in your grow room all night long with it.
Yeah, it's keep in mind that like what they call a daily light integer, or DLI, is how many photons the plant gets within the spectrum it uses in a day. Well, if you leave that green light on all night, they're going to accumulate enough photons to affect one way or another. So it's just not a good idea to ever leave anything on, even if it's low intensity.
Actually, if you stay in your room, after in your dark period, if you stay in your room, you'll notice a bunch of green lights. From your humidifier, from your CO2 tank reader, from your AC, you'll notice a bunch of green lights. So they are exposed to it.
Oh, that's that's an interesting point. There you go, folks. We touched on something we didn't even know we were going to touch on. The fact that all your little electronic devices in your room are emitting some light at some point from somewhere.
Yeah, before every run, I usually turn off all the lights, turn up all the pumps, turn up all the equipment, sit there for 20 minutes, look if there's any light leaks, and if there's any light leaks, patch them up, and I get to see what light is actually there.
Yeah, I know that was something doing a lot of consulting. It's definitely one of the first things I look at, especially if they're having Hermy problems.
Yeah.
Go in and shut off all the lights and then go around with duct tape over or whatever, all the red lights and glowing power strips. And power strips are the biggest one because it's a red light and it really fucks with the plants. But I see it all the time. People have opened, non-covered power strips.
It's even worse. A mini knocking a timer.
Yep. And you can also even take like a little piece of a little black cloth and make a little curtain for it or whatever. It doesn't have to be taped, but just literally anything just to keep it from shining.
Yeah. You could take a little piece of cardboard, put a little piece of tape on it, and put it over the window on your air conditioner where the digital readout is and all in the lights. Yeah. Flip it on if you want to see what the temperature is or what your settings are, and then drop it back down, little door.
No, I don't know. This might have been what Dutch asked earlier. I had to step out for a second, but have you ever done like a gas lamping thing where they're on for 4 hours and off for 4 hours and that kind of stuff? I know there's a guy in Alaska that was doing like a I think it was 4 hour flip or anything like that, or breaking, doing in the middle of the night, breaking it for an hour or two and then going back to sleep, keep them in veg. Have you guys heard of that at all?
Well, I guess because Alaska's got too much light for a few months a year and not enough light the rest of it, that the formulas for lighting and changing will be slightly different in that environment. I've never
I was just curious.
in like Paris, France, and I was in Ireland for a while. If it's further north, but mostly, here in LA, our days don't change too drastically, but in Alaska, your daylight length changes hugely. So it just depends what time of year it is. He's playing with those waking, sleeping formulas. I know guys that try to create a new day, and that they're doing this bizarre lighting of 8 hours on, and then 3.5 hours off, and then 8 hours on, and 3.5. They're trying to turn the day into an 11.5 hour day.
Yeah.
I've seen some guys have some success with it. I've seen some guys find out that they obviously had some light leaks and other things in the room because the plants just went completely, hermaphrodited out big time, just out of sync. We only learn by trying to make these mistakes, but Orr points out the simplest thing. Any grow environment, sit down when the lights are off and see if there's any light sources. You'd be surprised. Your eyes get real keen in like a minute. You see everything.
All right, the plants talk to you and the room talks to you. The room's squeaking, something's broken. Plants talk to you, room talks to you. It works. Synergy.
Yeah, again, that's what I mentioned earlier. You have to do grow after grow, keep experimenting. You'll find your niche, you'll find what you like, and then you try to learn little things here and there as the years go on to make it even better.
We got a question from Chad. Have you done any tests with the 1750K spectrum? Says he got lights it says that have them on it, and was curious what that does.
Well, it's pretty much hellfire. I don't play with it that way because when we went full spectrum and we started studying with the ends of full spectrum, what variances we had within that, we found pretty much gold, if you will, and if not platinum, of benefits to plants. Then we start studying other bandwidths and would add or fix or tilt the plant away or toward for veg and flower. You're always going to have more light, less watts with a fuller spectrum. So I don't want to go back to dial spectrum. I don't think that's an answer. And from all the science that I've studied for the past few years, it's full spectrum is what plants want.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie wanted to know if you guys do leasing or have anyone that does financing for lights.
Yeah, we do have a few companies. We have 3 companies that we can go through. So.
No, that's good.
Awesome. Great. Well, did you guys have anything else you guys wanted to go over? I don't want to hold you guys up all night. I know you guys have been very busy.
I just hope they answer everyone's questions, and if they have anything else, you can run it through you or us or however it works, but obviously it's a very things going on with lighting, with plants, with growing systems, with greenhouses. I think it's an exciting time to be a gardener.
So how would people find you? We have a lot of aquaponic listeners on the show. What would be, let me ask you that real quick before we let you go. What would be like a good entry level light for people, maybe have a 3x3 or a 2x2 or a 2x4 grow? What would be kind of their entry level lights that you guys have there?
If you're going to have a smaller area, a lower height thing, you're dealing with smaller plants, like a closet case. Closet case for your if you can only get one little light to do from seed to skillet, so to speak, get yourself a closet case. If you have room to veg, a little small veg area, and then you're going to flip over to flower, get a mother's little helper for that veg area, you can get better results with 100 or 140 watts than you can with 250 or 400 watts of metal halide with a better spectrum. We make lights for each style of grow and each size of grow because we started through all those levels ourselves. And I know you got to have the right tool for the job, so we made one for very beginner small spot, a little bit bigger. It's a lot bigger to a whole lot bigger. If you're a grower, we make something you can use to grow better plants.
Awesome. No, I know you guys have the really great smaller ones. I know we use them quite a bit at Ken's farm, and they work really good for what we use it for there. We do a lot of seed starts with them, and then we do a lot of, a couple of the crops that we want to keep on a little bit longer daytime. So it's really, really, really well. Sorry.
I guess one maybe last minute question, if I can hop in. I was keen on using induction lighting to transition plants from indoor to outdoor. Do you guys offer? Do you guys lights? I mean, yeah. I guess you probably know the question.
Induction lighting pretty much came and went because of its inability to throw light far. They came up with a great spectrum, but it had to be so close to the plants that kind of negated its validity. Watt consumed. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they made a lot of noise and then just kind of phased down. There are still some out there, and there are some that got a little bit closer to decent. But as far as quality of light and intensity to get plants going, they don't compete with LEDs and other things out there. So I'm not, unless they've done something brand new.
Well, I wasn't really asking about like the quality for growing, more like in terms of using them to condition plants to outside because of the UV.
Well, yeah.
Like if you're cloning indoors and you want to be able to sell plants to guys that are in greenhouses or outdoors, you need to like set them up.
You could just as easily replicate that though with with a decent light and then a couple of the reptile UVA-B bulbs.
Yep. You tell guys just get the reptile bulb and turn it on 15 minutes every few hours.
$6 will get you the reptile bulb. That's not worth it. It's not worth it for when manufacturers, LED manufacturers say, yeah, we have UVB. Why would you put UVB LEDs? They have a lifespan of 4,000 hours. Why would you do that? So you're saying in 4,000 hours that this light is going to be trash and it's going to be no use. So you're going to have to send it back to the manufacturer to get it fixed. And that's going to cost a fortune if they're going to do it for you.
Well, the other thing is those UVs. I know when I've seen a couple side by sides with you guys versus Blurples, the red style, and the extra UV and then the far red increases the heat on the surface of the leaf and converts some of that THC to CBN, and we've seen that in the side by sides by as much as 2 or 3% or more.
Yep.
So that's the other reason why it's not necessarily always good. Little UVA is fine for striking out, but you don't want too much, and especially the red, the far red really can heat it up on the leaf surface.
Yep. It's the balance of, the rest of your spectrum to the bookends, like all the UV and the infrared. It's the dose. And some of those things that have too much of a dose effectively negatively impact your plants, like you mentioned.
Set the balance. Yep.
Right. So if you're hardening your plants, back to the point at hand, as Nora mentioned, you could take a full spectrum light. We make them, such as, depending on how many plants we're talking about, what size they are, you might need a reptile bulb or a few of them, but they don't even need to be on all the time. You can just have them on, like I mentioned earlier, 15 minutes every 2 hours. And that will trigger the systemic response within the plant to propagate its natural sunblock to its cuticle and strengthen itself. And essentially harden the plants and make them more prepared for when you do get them outside.
Oh, okay, as a hardening. Okay, yeah, I see
So you would say 15 minutes an hour, or you're saying for a minute every 15 minutes, or what?
Have it on for 15 minutes every 2 hours.
Oh,
every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours. Okay.
You don't need to have it on all the time.
Interesting. That's really cool.
Awesome.
That's a way to save power. Cool. Yeah. No, that's really something I didn't know at all. That's really cool. Any other great tips there, Guru?
Listen, we made UV fixtures. We tested them. We tortured them. We made bars. We did stuff. And then we pretty much wanted to beat each other up with them because what they would cost to manufacture doesn't justify their existence. Until we can find a way to make a substrate that the diode doesn't eat with its own color it exudes, they don't live long, like we mentioned. So why but I have one side of my light working for 60,000 hours and a small part of it go out in 4,000. It's not there yet. When the technology's there, trust me, we'll be all over it because we're always paying attention to it.
I remember some of the old reef lights would have a halide with two actinic bulbs on either side. I don't know if you remember those, the old reef masters.
Sure, the big tank, the aquarium lights. Yeah.
Yep. No, one of the worst one. I was working at the pet store for a minute, and the coral. Remember the Coral Life, the little thin Coral Life lights? They had something wrong with the lenses, the plastic they used in the lenses, and they were catching fire. We had out of 20 of them sold, I think we had 7 of them catch fire or melt. It was really bad out of a batch. So like you got to be really careful when you're buying lights and not cheap out because, I mean, it can literally be dangerous.
No, yeah. So UV will actually make cheap plastic break down. It's pretty fucking hilarious.
It'll actually deform like it has, like it's being. You can see it like Wicked Witch of the West melting slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And human eyes don't want to see it. I mean, it's UVA. You know, plants. Our lights already have a small dose of that in there, and that's already affecting increased terpene production and plants' natural sunblock, good trichomes. When you're adding some UVB, you can help sterilize and negate certain pathogens. But as Laura mentioned, if you have too much of it, you're no, that's getting way down. That's my chromium level. But when you get down to over a 2, 3, 4% level of UVB, you're hurting them. Because it's all about the balance within the spectrum. The things that it's kind of a yin and yang between red, blue, green, yellow. You can always be in balance. And when you break that balance, things go horribly wrong. There was a brand of LED, I'll leave them out, but a few years back, they played with colored lenses, which changed the Kelvin temperature, the resulting Kelvin temperature of what the lights gave off. And it gave them a disproportionate amount in the UVB area. And plants were looking like they were, leper colony victims because they were being tortured and damaged and cellular degradation at the DNA level because of the imbalance of the UVB in proportion to the rest of the light the plants were getting. Just like in sunlight, everything's there, but the bookends taper, even in natural sunlight.
You see that when you move indoor plants outside, they get sunburn and all. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting. You bring it up that how to, when you explain that it's hard, if you're hardening it off by using that like that, that's a real nice tip. I mean, that's getting elaborate too. I mean, you got to really be into growing and doing every little thing it takes, but in the idea of taking it, from a cloning standpoint, that was really great information for people right there to make more.
Well, for nurserymen, and as we're all going to be moving into nursery or to greenhouses, in commercial world. So,
got mine.
Make us a light, bro. Market us a light. Take the reptile sticker off and put a.
Well, that's what he's saying is the UV diodes don't live long.
Right.
Well, that's okay, but if we still need it for that use, and we know it, right?
If I look at it this way, if you want a reptile bulb, it could be on your front doorstep before you wake up just by going on Amazon.
Fair enough.
I'm not going to go out and make myself a bulb and have it cost more than you want to pay for it because we had to buy a different quantity.
So check it out. In order for UV to transmit, you need not thinking. In order for UV does not pass through normal glass. You need quartz. Okay, quartz is very, very, very expensive. So when you're talking about component LEDs that cost you a lot and glass that costs you a lot, and they don't last you for a very long time, it makes it not feasible.
As he said,
Thank you.
We'll keep looking, but until it's cost effective and we can offer you a solution that we back and we believe in, we're not going to do it. Our eyes are open. We'll always have our eyes open towards what we can do with LEDs.
All of our products, we have a 2-part warranty, 5-year mechanical and 3-year optical. So if we can't offer that on this, then why bother?
No, and I love that about your lights. You know, all the LEDs. You know, you guys have a real long warranties. So.
Well, you know, when we came out with 90% or better after 3 years, a lot of our competitors said, "Shut up! Don't say things like that," because they didn't believe in it or follow it. And on our lights, also, we say if you have one diode out, let us know. We'll get it fixed. There are other companies that think you have to have 15% of your diodes out for it to be a problem. Pay for something. Our perspective is if one thing's out, it's a problem. So yeah, you got to back your products. You got to believe your products. You got to use your products, or you're just schlepping stuff. We don't work that way.
Yeah, well, it's bad. That's the way. That's how you get to the top. You got to put quality into what you don't become a Rolls Royce by putting in Ford Escort parts. You know, you become a Rolls Royce by putting in the highest quality parts with the highest quality materials on the planet, and then you can say we're the best on the planet.
And the reason our company slogan is "Plants don't lie, people do," is of all the great storytelling out there. There's one set of ladies that no matter what I say, they're right, and they tell me exactly how they're feeling, and those are our plants. You know, if you don't watch them closely and learn by it, you're not a gardener. If you haven't got your fingernails in there and figured out what's happening and try to understand and be able to recognize what different bandwidths of light do, how they react to temperature, humidity, when they're happy, when they're hungry, when they've been overfed, when something's going on, that's all from being in front of plants and watching plants. So we've done enough laps around the track and enough hands and things to know what happy plants look like. And once you've got that point, now you're like, what else can I do for them? That UV, that little bit of infrared, but tapered doses, that helps their immune system, helps harden them, and helps them produce better trichomes and flowers. So yes, I'm going to study it, and I'm not going to stop studying it. But if I can turn you on to a $6 bulb that'll help you, I'm going to do that too. Because we're gardeners who make lights. But if you need a quick fix for a UV thing, just like Or said, Amazon will have it on your doorstep tomorrow.
Oh, yeah,
And on that note, I'd like to mention real quick that one thing we love about Spectrum King is they're not just a company that popped up because of the cannabis industry or the vegetable. They are a lighting company that does custom lighting for all industry around the world. So, you know, they're not just guys that decided to do a grow light. They were in the lighting business before that and very successful at it. So we thank you, Brandon, every time you come on, because yeah, you are a wealth of information. I love it because you actually almost every time you come on, Steve says, "I didn't know that." You don't get to hear Steve say that very often.
Well, I'm surprised I get stumbled, but hey, I learned something too. So, you know, I'm happy.
Oh, yeah, we all do.
That's the only way all of us get better. We share information and move things forward. So, you know, if it's an LED question that wants answered, Or and I are here to answer. You know, that's how we operate.
Yeah, I still got to get with you guys too. I got to not drop the ball this time as I did after the last show and get in touch with you this week.
Yeah, you guys have been our most frequent guests, and appreciate you guys taking the time to come on. You guys have been some of the most informative guests that we've had on the show, and we really appreciate you guys coming on always.
Cool. Well, appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. You know, if anything else pops up or things come along, you know, let us know.
So how would people reach you guys and find you guys online?
SpectrumKingLED.com, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You know, there's Spectrum King on all those fronts. You could call our office too, 888-654-0737. Open from 9 to 5 Pacific Standard Time, Monday to Thursday, Friday till 2. Or and I are usually there, but we don't answer the phone after certain hours. Because everyone that knows us has our cell phone number, so they're calling my cell phone anyway. So by 3 o'clock in the morning, we'll apply.
Someone's gonna call and fuck with us. Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I always enjoy hanging out with you guys whenever we go to the shows. We always have a blast and end up talking about some crazy bullshit science stuff, and it's always a good time.
Yeah, the videos y'all did that we looked at as the last time you were on a few months ago, that were cool. Was that Las Vegas or was it LA show or something? I can't remember, but you introduced your computer-driven lights.
It was in Vegas, yeah.
Vegas, that was a cool video for y'all that want to look back in the show. There's some video that Steve and Brandon and Orr did in Vegas at the show, and they introduced a really cool situation. I mean, you can literally buy lights from these guys that are
Lamborghini there, the Spectrum King Lamborghini.
I'll say it wasn't me, but a member of the team can get carried away, and it wasn't Orr. Yeah, it's no secret that we are car people too. You know, me being the nerd with the Prius, the other guys all having Mustangs, things like that, freaked out. I have a race car for a simple reason. I would drive at 140 down the street, let alone a track.
Right.
I love driving fast, so I get myself a car that can't do it. And by the way, if you didn't know, Priuses can go 120 miles an hour, no problem. I do it all the time.
Allegedly.
Reportedly, okay, we'll go with that too. Yeah.
Purportedly.
Yeah, it's that one blue-haired lady in the Prius in the left lane going 40. That made everyone else think Priuses can't move. But you push the pedal, it does get out of its own way. It's a fun car, but not fast enough to get me in or in Rami trouble. I think their cars are they're about 2 parts away from being Star Trek and just beaming themselves around the other end of the track. They're so damn fast. But,
all right, well, we'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. Love you, man. That was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Oh yeah, my favorite guys. I can't help it. That's my favorite guys. All the time, every time.
So Josh, what have you been up to?
Watching the plants grow, watering. That's about it. Yeah.
Playing with the bee.
Trellising my tomatoes, hanging out with my kid. Peppers are starting to get color, so that's exciting. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to report. I'm just kind of eating vegetables and been doing a little camping, taking a little time off kind of before the big storm.
Have you guys had any fires up your way, or?
No, not. I mean, we're right by the coast. There are some fires in the state for sure, but nothing big that I'm hearing about or seeing in the air.
Wow,
Yeah.
I haven't seen much about Washington or even what around Marty, but it's funny because I mean it's outrageous in California, but that's all they've been reporting on. And I mean it makes sense there'd be fires in Oregon and fires in Washington. Yeah, although I think you'd be well away from it where you're at, Josh. But
there's fires up the whole coast right now.
I mean, they're happening. They're smaller. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, in not as crazy, like.
Yeah, they're not
38.
infernos.
Yeah.
Torfernos or whatever they had freaking tornado of fire I saw on
tornadoes.
Oh my! I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, how anybody? I've got friends that moved up in that area years ago, and then fire started. I mean, they've always started, but the last few years have been unprecedented. I believe it just been crazy out there, and I just feel real bad about seeing that. You see all those people. I feel like they all got insurance, but you still lose all your stuff. I mean, you got a lot of personal family stuff. You can rebuild a house if you make it out alive. I'm thinking more about, we've got some ace top of the line, like the special forces of firefighters getting killed because of this kind of fire. First responders that are standing between your home and your family and that fire. And this fire just ran right over them. And it happens occasionally, but not like this fire. I don't remember this many firefighters passing, getting caught out there and getting killed in a while. Do you guys?
No, this was unusual.
This is bad. This was real. I mean, they got run over, and those guys take it easy. I mean, they're in there battling, but they're doing it safe too. They don't go in there to get burned up, So when they get caught out there, it's bad. That's just uncontrollable. It's crazy. That's crazy. But, I don't know. All right, that's enough of my rant. And you know, I just, if you have a chance to give a couple dollars to somebody, some organization helping, or some kind of fund, give it, give it and help out those families out there.
Yep.
So, what have you been up to, Steve?
I've been today. I'm teaching the commercial class here with Charlie and Ken this weekend. So we've been teaching all day, and so that's always fun. Especially the commercial class. People are always super motivated and usually have a little bit of a background in aquaponics, so it's always fun. Working on licensing for California, pretty close on that. Working on licensing for Canada, and all the permitting and inspections and security background checks and all the different 1,000 fucking hoops you got to jump through.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. You got to deal with background checks and stuff like that, especially in that industry.
All management and anyone over 5% ownership.
Oh, really? Oh, well, yeah, that's just smart. You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to start a business of that size and potential with a. Yeah, I understand. So they wouldn't give the license if it was a criminal. Is that what it is? But it's as much as a moral thing for your, board of directors too, isn't it?
Well, no, yeah, anyone that's management or over 5%. So it's just a lot of paperwork, a lot of making sure that everyone's done what they need to do to file it, and like just a lot of paperwork. A lot, you got to do the security plans, you got to do all your SOPs, you got to do just a lot of shit. Like a lot of shit. A lot of shit. Just an ungodly amount of paperwork. So, but it's almost over. So I'm looking forward to that being over. And then aside from that, oh shit, did I lose internet?
Hello?
Hello? Oh, okay. Looks like I lost internet for a second. Sorry about that.
Well, Josh dropped out, so you might have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks like the internet skipped or something.
I stayed on the whole time. I heard you, and
it must have been a West Coast thing. Anyways.
Oh well, it wouldn't be surprising that I'm surprised that you even can broadcast tonight. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have, because actually there's a fire close as shit to San Francisco. The way I look at it.
Well, it's not. There's one 60 miles north, I think, is the closest one.
That's pretty freaking close when it's burning 75,000 acres and shit like that.
Well, that's not that. Well, this new one, that new one hasn't gotten that big yet.
Oh, okay.
One in Redding is pretty far away.
They called one the bench fire. I don't know why, but they called it the bench fire. Is the one that's the worst, I think.
The car fire, actually.
Oh, the car fire. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. The car fire, and then the bench fire. That's the one they addressed the most. And then they mentioned the other, But yeah, that I saw a video on YouTube today where they said, people evacuating on the interstate, and the entire mountains behind them were on fire.
Yep.
I mean, holy shit.
Like a apocalypse shit. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, see, that's funny you say that, because I was thinking it might start making people believe in God.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
But you said apocalypse, though.
I've been near some of those fires, and it's scary and not fun.
It's not fun, and it's just tragic. Like I said, I had a friend that he actually was my mentor when I first got into helping out on cannabis forums in 2005 or 2005, and he was in around the LA area, and I'm pretty sure, and he knew a lot of the people. Dadgummit, I'm thinking of. Was it Dennis? I'm just thinking. Yeah, Dennis Perone, right?
Which one?
Well, your friend Perone, what's his first name?
That passed away? Dennis.
Yeah. I was right. Dennis Perone. That's what I said. Okay. Well, he knew Dennis. And because he knew a lot of the people that helped put that bill together,
Yeah.
And he was a big time guy at Comcast way back in the day. You know, went all you know, the whole West Coast and Mexico and all. You know, and he moved from the L.A. area anyway, and the California area where he'd been doing business and living most of his life up into the mount, you know, up into the hills or the mountains. And it wasn't the second year he was up there after they'd spent tons of money building the house and all that a fire came through there and wiped him out. And wasn't long after that his, this is a shout out to all you fans of Xandor and at the Grow Report and, you know, Dope Fiend and the Dope Tribe. This is, if any of y'all are listening out here, you know, this is Latewood, Xandor's buddy, and you know, I haven't heard from him in years. But they shut down the Grow Report, and you know, which was a private, you know, he was running himself, you know, and getting, you know, which is a very expensive proposition to run a really high class forum community and podcast network. It was the official forum actually for the Dope Fiend podcast network, which had like, I don't know, 15 or 20 podcasts, you know, you could listen to out of England. It was pretty cool. Anyway, I don't know how I got off on that rant from coming from the fire, but you know, we've all might have had a little bit of smoke or vape or dabs or whatever. So we tend to wander a little bit. We lost our buddy in Washington. So it's you and me, buddy. What are we going to do? We going to shoot the shit for people, or are we going to call it a night?
Well, I just was going to say, we got a couple of other cool projects potentially. I can't mention them yet. Obviously, they're preliminary, but there's some other cool aquaponic projects that might be happening here soon. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Upcoming cannabis class in August, the end of August here, if anyone's interested in that. I think that's about it. Trying to think if there was anything else going on. There was something, but I don't think of it. What about you, Roger? Anything else going on in your?
Pretty much waiting out this. You know, we're in the time of year, we're in hurricane season. It's been pouring rain here with thunderstorms for 3 days straight, so we're kind of at a standstill. I'm doing some thinking about redesigning and changing the way I originally designed my farm to be set up, which is still only about 1/3 of the way done. Or actually, if I got to everything I want to do, it's probably about 10% done what I could actually do on this place. It's just I can't get too big, you know, unless I can get, you know, workers and all. And that's always hard to start out with. It's real hard to get somebody reliable that you can trust around your greenhouse and even your, you know, conventional or aquaponic or any kind of outdoor farm, you know, or projects that you got going on. So I have to kind of weigh that. And I think I'm going to do some more demolition. I'm going to try to finish. We're almost at the point where we'll be finishing the fencing to, you know, for the dogs to be able to run separate from the farm and where we grow food. I think I'm going to do some demo where I was going to go back from my greenhouse. I think I'm going to demo all the shed construction in the front and open all that up and come towards the street, come towards the road. So that's why I got a big greenhouse project going on for, I think I'm going to try to do it all and get it done by the end of the year, you know, so that I can get started fresh again, you know. Well, I might even be able to start in the winter. It just depends. But I really think I'm going to go into a project here. Looks like I might be acquiring the other lot next door, which will allow me to expand, you know, my greenhouse, which is one of the reasons I couldn't make any money. It wasn't big enough. So I'm looking forward to that. And if I do that, I'm definitely going to be setting it up as an aquaponics greenhouse. You know, I may have some projects over here that are in my own mix. I might even do some hydro stuff. I don't know. I have to just wait and see how it goes. And I have to see how I can keep fish alive, you know. So it's the same kind of plans I've been having. It's just, you know, things, as we all know, you plan it and you want it done tomorrow, but it takes a lot of tomorrows before you get done. So just hanging in there, you know, but I'm feeling pretty good lately. Things are going a little better. Yeah, I've had some, rough patches going on with some personal stuff for a couple of years, and I think we're going to have some closure here soon, and that's going to allow me to get on with my projects. A lot of my projects are stifled right now because, it's well, just because of some personal things going on, where it involves the property and this and that. So that's all I can say about that. So, well, it was a great show tonight with Brandon and Orr from Spectrum King. Third time they've been on the show, and we love having them on because we learn something new every day when they're on, and it's really cool. And not to mention, if you got a lighting question, it's the guys to ask. When it comes to the spectrum, they've proven it. I was a naysayer back when LEDs first came out, and I stayed that way for a long time. I started seeing some good results, but then they surpassed even those. So, I still use, HID lamps, and I use T5s a lot. I have some LEDs, and I'm building up towards, maybe having I would really love to do a grow room with just Spectrum King and see how it goes. So, I think it was great to have them to remind me I need to get that done. I need to get a lamp from them.
On that note, I'm rocking all Spectrum Kings in my bedroom right now, and in the flowering room right now, actually.
And the coolest thing, guys and gals, men and women, of all ages, they will build you a light to fit your specifications in your grow room. Now, they got lights for sale. And, of course, you're going to pay a little premium for that. But they will build you. When you say, oh, this one's too big, or I wish it was a little longer or a little deeper. They will build you a light to your specifications. And they will, I don't even think they'll tax you that much, but it will be something because it'll be a one-off, right? So, it won't be like their production lamps where, they're decent price, they're good price. They're higher than some companies, but they're higher quality than most companies. They're all,
If you need a light, it's a little longer, deeper, thicker, whatever you need.
Right, they will do it, and they've come up with, and I love it because you touch on it, but they've got all different configurations with different size lights that they got all kinds of stuff. You really got to check it out at SpectrumKingLED.com. I'm not sure right now offhand what all they've got, but I'm pretty sure they keep their site up to date. So you'll be able to go, and I think they have a section called either horticulture or agricultural lighting or whatever. So it was. I remember going, and I'm legally blind, so I do remember going to their website last time they were on, and I thought it was pretty easy to navigate for all you people out there. So, yeah, again, a big shout out for them. They are our biggest guests at this point. Most three shows, And I've been on there for all 3 shows, so I've been really lucky, to be able to talk to those guys. And I'm done.
Absolutely. Well, next week we'll catch you guys next week. We'll be able to be back on Potent Ponics YouTube channel next week. The suspension ends tomorrow, or tonight at midnight. So we'll be back to the normal channel, normal time. And we won't have to use the side channel anymore. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back for episode 100. And yeah, see you guys next week. Cheers.
Good night.